What's going on, guys? My name is Lextasy and welcome back to another video, another story of me getting completely screwed on another car purchase. So this one right here is definitely for the books. I promise you, I have definitely learned my lesson because the story gets worse the longer you stick around and listen to it, because at the end of the day, on a 2017 Audi R8 V10 Plus twin turbo with the sheepy kit on it, in about a little over a year of ownership, I lost over $80,000, and the story is just completely wild from the start of it. So many red flags that I should have paid attention to. Unfortunately, I didn't. And let's get it going, man, because this is unbelievable. For the people that don't know, my name is Lextasy. I have a drag racing / racing channel on YouTube for a few years now. This is one of our awesome bad boy, one-of-a-kind builds in the whole world. It is actually an LS swapped 2006 Dodge Charger with a Power Glide in it. This thing with twin turbos is insanely fast. So if you like content like that, definitely stick around for this, because, well, this kind of a mistake, or this kind of a painful build and investment, was self-inflicted. The R8 was not, unfortunately, but it just got worse as the whole story progresses. So let's get it going, guys. A lot of you, just like me, probably have that dream car of yours, the one that you've always wanted to own. In my case, I had an R8 before. It was a 2014, just a regular one, but it did have a dual clutch transmission, which is great. Really fell in love with it, the way it sounded. The V10 sounded amazing, the way it drove. But I was like, look, I sold it, and I've always wanted another one, and I've always wanted one with a twin turbo kit on it. So to own another V10 was always on the back of my mind, especially a twin turbo, whether it was a Huracan or an R8. I definitely wanted to check that off my bucket list. And at that time, I owned a Dodge Durango Hellcat that was about 1,000 horsepower that my wife daily drove on E85. And I had a Whipple F-150 regular cab short bed 4x4 that I think I put over $35,000 or $40,000 into it, with suspension, the fuel system, the Whipple kit. We did a lot of work to it. This was about a year and a half ago, which was a big deal on YouTube. Not a lot of people had those yet. They were a sleeper truck. And out of the blue, in April of 2023, I get a message from a random guy out of Utah. I just seen your Durango Hellcat. Would you trade it for a twin turbo R8? And I'm like, oh my God, what is the chance that that is the trade somebody wants to give? Now, obviously, I would have to pay up a little more, whether it's financing or cash, whatever. And I'm like, dude, this is awesome. Like, yeah, let's figure this out. Give me some information. So we start getting the details. He sends me photos. He sends me video of him doing the walk arounds. I send him the Durango. Now, this was like towards late in the evening. Next morning, he's like, hey, man, forget the Durango. I want the F-150 truck. The Whipple one that you have. And I was like, do you want both of them for the R8 or what? And he's like, yes. But then at the end of the day, he just decided, let's just do the truck deal. First red flag, he never negotiated the price down of my F-150, which I had posted for, I think, like $60,000 or $65,000, trying to get whatever I paid for the truck plus whatever I put into it, so all my money back. But it did only have a 7,200 miles, I think, at the time. For 2018, that's super low mileage. And on the other side, I was able to get him to come down on the R8 price, which was, I think, like, we got it down to 162, which in 2023, the market on the cars was insanely high, no matter what you were buying, whether it was a Camry or a Lamborghini Huracan or an R8 for that matter. All the prices were super high. So I thought it was a great deal. And the way I wanted to make the deal happen was through my buddy's dealership. So that way I can get the financing for the difference. He can handle all the DMV paperwork. We just swap cars plus a little bit more money on my side from the bank, and we're good to go. So I get the videos from him. I get photos. I asked him if there's anything wrong with the car. He said absolutely not. I sent him videos of my truck, some of the pulls that I did on it as well, roll racing and things like that. The deal is going good. We're working on everything, getting it figured out. Second red flag, he says, hey, I am not releasing my R8 until I have your truck in my possession and the check for the difference as well. And I'm like, now hold on, because even my dealership that I'm going through, which is Alex at Formula Imports, super awesome guys. I buy all my cars through them, so hit them up. They're out of Charlotte. But Alex was like, whoa. You want him to send all the information, all the cash, the truck, everything to you while you still have possession of the R8 also? It's like, yes, because my car is worth more than your truck. And we were like, yeah, but we're giving you everything and then some, and you haven't even paid the truck off, but you want us to go ahead and send everything as well? The whole thing was just really, really sketchy, that he wanted to have possession of my truck, all the funds in-house, and do it through his dealership as well, so he didn't have to technically register it through his dealership and I guess drive it on dealer plates. He does have a dealership out there, and we're like, man, this is all going so freaking weird. And at this moment, that's when me and Alex were like, hey, have we even considered doing like a PPI, pre-purchase inspection? Because I know a lot of you are going to be like, what an idiot. Did you even get it looked at? Yes, I did. I called the local Audi store and they're like, twin turbo, we'll check the brakes. I don't know how to check the turbo kit. We can look for leaks. And I was like, man, I need a shop that does performance things, that can actually get under it, drive it, figure it out. I found another shop. They said, hey, it'll be like $200-300. Just get them to drop it off. Give us about an hour, 2 hours. We'll take a look at it. So I got him to drop it off there. Let's name him John. Let's give him a name, all right? So John drops off the R8s, and then about hour and a half later, I get a text that says, hey, go ahead and send us, the receipt or the payment for the PPI inspection. That guy said, and I think I have the text messages, you're getting a heck of a good deal. You're getting a steal. This car is in perfect condition. And I'm like, oh my God, this deal just couldn't get any better. I'm getting full asking for my F-150. I negotiated the price down on his car by about 10 grand or so. What could possibly be going wrong? Yes, he wants the money up front. I kind of get it. You are releasing an R8 for a truck that's worth $35,000 plus some mods and the financing from the bank as well. So even though through all these like things that are kind of hinting at like something doesn't make sense here, I released the truck. I had it put on a carrier, and the carrier takes it there, and that same guy is supposed to pick up the R8 and bring it straight to me. So he gets the truck. Now here's another thing which is crazy, and I have, I think, some footage of this. He said, hey, I need this truck here like ASAP. You have to get it to me within a few days because there's a weekend race event, like a roll race event or something at an airstrip. I'm taking it there. I was like, well, you do realize you got different altitudes. This truck strictly on E85. I don't know if you need to retune it. Do you need to do anything with it? Adjustments? What, man? Because you're completely taking out what we've been doing and doing something else with it. And he's like, man, don't worry about it. I'll put it on pump 93. Just send me the pulley with it. I'll get it done. So the truck gets there, and within, I think, 3 days or 2 days, he actually won a race event, which was pretty cool to see because I never got a chance to actually drag race it in actual competition. So that was cool to see it on his Instagram page. The R8 finally shows up about a week later. And they drop it off at a dealership where I was working out super late at night, which was like, man, you couldn't have waited till morning. Anyways, I get there, the car's already off the car hauler, and it's actually parked in front of the dealership. And me and my wife could not be more excited. This is like a dream car for me. Like, everybody gets it, right? When you buy that car that you've always wanted, sometimes you kind of get that blind side of just not seeing anything else. You're just so in love with the car because it sounds amazing. Those twin turbos are whistling. Everything is just perfect. Like, this is meant to be in life. You deserve it. You work so hard for it. In the morning, I wake up, I'm refreshed, I'm excited. It's time to actually put some miles on and figure this car out. That's when I take it to my buddy Brandon, who has been working on all of my cars, who helped me throughout this whole R8 process. He is the Audi guy, and I couldn't have done anything without him. But I take it to his Audi dealership where he works at, and we get it on the lift. And we start looking at this car. So first things first, before we even get it on the lift, I realize the backup camera does not work. Because of the custom exhaust, how it comes out the center, the bumper over it has melted underneath. There's like nothing holding the bumper, so it's pretty flaky on the top of where the exhaust is. Like, there's nothing there. There's no brackets, nothing like that. I'm like, all right, whatever, backup camera, I'll figure it out, because it would work like half the time. So I figured it was probably a loose wire, and it does sit right above the exhaust. Maybe it's a melted wire. I'll figure it out. While I'm driving to Brandon, I realize this car has no AC at all. Like, it's blowing straight heat, and this is like April, right? So here in the mountains, it still gets up to about 75-80 degrees. We get it on the lift. The water to air, the tank that they put in the front of the car, in the front of the car, was not working. So I open it up, and there's supposed to be that pump that's supposed to push it out. It's like a submersible pump out of like boats. That's what they put on there. It's not working. So I'm getting really pissed off because you can see that pump is cracked in half. This car has issues. I'm like, oh dude, no freaking way. At this time, I post a photo on Facebook or Instagram announcing I got the new car, and then one person that we have, a mutual friend, was like, dude, that is the car that was wrapped purple. And I'm like, I don't think so. I plug in the VIN into Google and realize this is a car at RP Exotics that I was looking at like probably a year ago, maybe 6 months ago. And turns out he bought that car thinking it had a stage 2 kit on it instead of just a turbo kit. It had an upgraded transmission. He bought it when it was still wrapped purple. And so this guy was like, yes, dude, that is the car. I personally drove in that car. I spoke to this guy and he told me that there was a transmission issue when he bought it. It blew up, and I think there was a third gear, the third gear in the transmission he had to replace. Cylinder 5 had bad compression, and there's some other issues, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, man, there's no way this is the same car. Like, there's no, he must have something wrong. He's like, no, dude, that was the purple R8 that he had before he peeled off the wrap off of it. You gotta understand where I'm coming from. Like right now, it's been, I don't even have the R8 anymore, and I'm still so pissed off about how this whole scenario went. I just couldn't have been any worse. So here I am getting fed all this information about a car that I already have a lot of issues with. So I text the dude and I'm like, hey man, so-and-so just told me there's a transmission issue you had with the car. There was an engine issue that probably has low compression cylinder 5. Backup camera don't work. AC doesn't work. The water tank pump doesn't work. Like, what's going on? And he's like, well, I didn't know about the AC. I never really used it because in Utah it's still kind of cool out here. I'm like, that's BS. I was like, what about the water pump? Oh, I never opened the tank, so I never even looked inside of it, even though he owned it for a few months. Backup camera doesn't work as well. I have no idea how the PPI person didn't catch it. Any of these issues. Did he even pop the frunk to look in there? Did he never turn on AC? I feel like that both of these companies, him, Johns, and the guy took it to PPI, which was only a few miles down the road, probably knew each other, because there's no way you're going to tell me that car is in perfect condition. Did he never even put it in reverse? I mean, I don't get it. He said he worked on R8s. So he's giving me all these stories, said there's never been an issue with the transmission, the engine is perfectly fine. So I'm freaking out at this point. I can't, like, I could, you know, pushed myself out of the means to get something over $160,000 because I thought it would be something great for the content for YouTube. You guys would like it, but it was nothing but nightmare. That's why you haven't seen so much footage of it or content period on this car. So while it is parked at Brandon's Audi dealership, we do a compression test. Luckily the test passes. It was like over 160, 170 pounds on every cylinder, so we're good there. The PSIs were perfect. So I was like, awesome, because this car, I forgot to mention, does have like 65,000 miles on it. And I'm like, all right, I can deal with these issues. They seem minor. The engine checks out. Transmission shifts good. I don't see any problems with it. I'm still stoked at this point. I'll handle it as the repairs come up. And so I start giving my friends rides. So I give my brother-in-law, Eric, a ride. And we're down on this major big road, and I do a pull in third gear. And when I do a pull, this thing goes like full boost, sounds amazing, it's pulling great, all of a sudden just drops, car shuts off, and it just sounded like just metal on metal. I'm like, oh my god, dude, I just blew the transmission up. The car has no power, we're done. I coasted off the road to this parking lot, and I'm like, my wife pulls up next to me, and I'm like, babe, I'm not even going to look under the car because I'm pretty sure there's a huge puddle of transmission fluid. It just sounded like something exploded. So I turn the ignition back on, and the car starts right up like nothing ever happened. I was like, that is really weird. So at this point, I'm like, all right, let's figure out what exactly, who put the turbo kit on, what's done to the car. So I reach out to Sheepy, Alex, the owner, Alex Soto at Sheepy in California, and I'm like, hey man, I actually messaged through the contact us page, and I was talking to somebody on email. I was like, hey, can you tell me, when did you guys put this kit on, the Sheepy kit on this car? And he said, well, this is one of our very first kits that we did long time ago, because we don't use, I think, precision turbos. They're switched to Garrett's now, or vice versa. Plus there is no water to air submersible pump inside the tank. It's actually on the exterior now. That's an old kit, and we didn't even install it. We sent that kit to some shop on the East Coast. They put it on, so we never really touched the car, period. So at that point, I called them directly. I called Sheepy, and turns out Alex picks up the phone. Alex Soto. I have his cell phone number right now, which is super cool. And I'm like, hey man, this car just did something really weird. I'm just wondering, maybe at 65,000 miles, it's time to do some transmission upgrades, some refreshments. Because I was thinking at this point, to maybe push this car to like 1400, because according to everybody, the engine can hold 1500 unopened, untouched. Your weakest link is the transmission, but once you build the transmission, all you need to do is a fuel system and you're like 1400 wheel horsepower all day long. So I'm like, let's go ahead and upgrade the transmission and kind of work our way up to the high horsepower levels, because it only has a stage 1 850 horsepower kit on it. And so Alex was like, look dude, if you're having problems with my car, I want to make sure everything's good. Let's get this transmission figured out, man. I'm gonna send you a quote right now, and yeah, let's get this build going, man. I want to make sure, I remember him saying this, I want to make sure my car's being represented. I don't care if I touched it or not. I want to make sure it's running good on the East Coast, because I'm on the West Coast. I want my cars to run good no matter where they're at. Perfect. Within 30 minutes, I get a quote for, I think it was like $30,000, maybe $40,000 to do clutches, upgrading some gears, half shafts, the major things you would want done to make sure there is no weakest link anymore in the drivetrain. At this point, I'm like, all right, man, that's, you know, I kind of have that money to set aside because I was going to build a car, but it's still driving decent, so maybe I'll put a few more miles on it and see what happens. So the very first time it acted up with Eric was like 2 weeks of ownership. A week later, or 2 weeks later, I am leaving actually this place right here, because I kept it parked at the warehouse. We get on this road, on Brevard Road, and we literally make it about 200 feet down the road, and this thing did the same exact thing, but this time it sounded a lot worse. The car completely lost all power steering, all power to it. So I'm coasting down the road, and I just crank it left just in time to get into the gas station and have enough, I guess, speed to pull over to the side. I got so many codes on the screen: all-wheel drive malfunction, parking brake malfunction, speed control malfunction. I mean, this thing is just wigging out, and no matter what I try to do, it just won't start back up. And I'm like, this thing is toast 100% this time. So at this moment, I'm sitting on the side of the road. I'm waiting for a tow truck to come pick me up and take it straight back to the shop a quarter of a mile down the road. So I call Alex from Sheepy, and I'm like, hey man, this is what's going on with the car. Can you tell me what do I do? And he's like, oh man, I remember these words. It was like, look dude, because I was like, I just talked to you about a week ago. And he's like, look, I don't remember talking to you. I have so many people that I talk to every day. I don't remember. So what's the issue? It threw these all-wheel drive malfunction codes, ABS codes. And he's like, well, if it threw an ABS or speed control sensor malfunction code, which sits right in front of second gear, so you probably blew a second gear out and it just shattered everything inside the transmission. You're going to need clutches and you're going to need a transmission done. So that's where you're at. And we're like, well, freaking fantastic. I am totally screwed, because it's one thing to replace parts as a maintenance thing and upgrade them, but once it blows up, usually you've caused a lot more damage and the repair is going to be a lot more expensive. Dude, there's no way this guy did not know about these issues. There's just no freaking way. This car should have been acting up from the get-go since he had it. And I found his Instagram page, and I've seen where he would do like drives in the car when he first got it, but he never got on it, right? If you're trying to show off a twin turbo car, you would be doing some really sick roller shots. Not once did he really mash it in the videos, and I was like, man, that's weird. Now that I'm looking back at it, 100% he knew that the car was having some sort of problems driving. It would shut off whenever you really mash and get on that car between second to third, fourth gears. So a few months pass by. I'm back at Brendan's. We are dropping the transmission, and we send the transmission to be built at a local shop here in Georgia called Collab Garage. Super awesome dudes. They're great. They did a great job upgrading the clutches. The second gear was upgraded as well, which that gear alone was a few $1,000s, which is insane. I did the half shafts. I did a lot of billet parts on there. So I think my total bill came out to almost $30,000 to upgrade this transmission. When they had it opened, they did see some parts and gearing that were kind of wore out and overheated. So he was like, look man, everything kind of looks good on this transmission. I don't think there's actual problem that happens. I mean, there's some wear and tear on some parts, but nothing that should have done what you said did to it. And I'm like, man, well, at this point you got it tore apart. Let's go ahead and upgrade and get this over with. So we get the transmission back, we put it back in the car with Brandon, and we make it to 50 feet down his shop. And before we even get to the garage door, the car shuts off. It just completely shuts off. I'm like, this makes no freaking sense. How? What? How? What's the codes? There's no codes in the car. Nothing is throwing a code. And so like, man, this is really weird. I mean, we couldn't even drive the car. And so he starts checking fuses because it threw a code for, I think like ECU 1, because there's two ECUs on the car. ECU 1 or TCU 1 or one of those things is just not, it's not even getting any signal. And he finds a green 30 amp fuse that blew out on the car. And we're like, dude, there's no way this was the problem. So what are you saying? The transmission wasn't the issue, was this fuse that blew out? He's like, I mean, I don't know. I don't think so, because if you think about it, if there was any tension, there's wear out parts, it could have just blew the fuse out from trying to save itself, and you know, transmission could have had issues. We put a new fuse in, and I leave and I drive it for a few weeks to a few months. I put hundreds of miles on the car, go to car shows. Like, I'm trying to enjoy this car. I get this upgraded transmission in the car. I'm finally starting to enjoy it. I'm like, dude, this thing is built, man. It's good for like 1,500 horsepower. Let's think about the fuel system, which is probably another 20 grand, but we'll hold off on that for now. And I'm driving it. I'm putting hundreds of miles on. I'm going to car shows. And then at one point, the car is just like, the weight shifting is rough. Like it upshifts a little bit stiff. And I'm like, well, is it an issue with the rebuild, the transmission? So I reach out to Collab's like, no, dude, you got to understand, you have upgraded clutches. Like, it's a 10-pack clutch. Datsun Pro, I forgot what it was called, but you spend a lot of money, man. It's going to shift different. And I'm like, dude, I think there might be some sort of issue with it. And he's like, what do you want me to do? I was like, well, let me drop it and take it back to you. So we did. We dropped the transmission out of the car again, which is not cheap. So I take it back to Collab. Collab takes every single thing out of it, every bolt and every part out of it. It's like there's nothing wrong with the transmission. So the transmission gets put in for the second time now, which I have to pay every time it's done. And I make it half a mile down the road. I'm leaving a red light, and I'm literally just touching the gas pedal. The car shuts off, and it does the same thing again. And I'm like, what is the problem? You know, it blew another fuse. So we had to get it pulled over to the side. Brandon flies with this car, puts another fuse in. I'm leaving the parking lot. It blows another fuse. I'm like, I'm so done with this car. It's obviously not the transmission. Something else is going on with it. And one night, I'm just sitting in the shop, like, I'm looking at the car. I have no idea what to do. What's causing it? Where is it coming from? What's the problem? And so I have the car running, and I go in the back of the car where the intercoolers are sitting, and I start listening. I hear like a little tick, and I'm like, that's really weird. It ain't the motor ticking. It sounds so different. And then I look where the wiring is coming off of one of the fuse boxes on the passenger side, and I wiggled the whole harness coming out of the fuse box, and it's sparking off of the intercooler plates that the intercoolers sit on, and it's just sparking. I'm like, holy crap, man, there's literally wires touching the metal. I look inside there, I open the whole harness, and there's 6 or 7 wires that have been rubbing for God knows how long, which is why I was having issues with the car just completely shutting off, because once under pressure, everything moved against the plate and they would touch and it would short out the car and blew fuses out. I just spent freaking $30-something thousand getting a transmission built because Sheepy and a bunch of other people said that is the issue. Those codes you read are 100% the issue. Nobody even for a second thought that that could be the problem with it. So I'll pay to have the car wiring fixed. It finally runs good. The car gets wrapped this beautiful midnight purple color. Like, it's just so nice. I spent like $5,000 on that as well, or $5,500. I finally get the AC compressor swapped out, and I pay for that as well. That was another $1,000-1,500. It didn't help. It didn't fix the issue. I'm like, what is going on? So then I send it to another shop and spend another $800 getting the wiring fixed for the AC compressor, because it's also all coming out of the same area. Somehow it's not getting any power to kick on the AC compressor. I get that fixed. I get the water pump fixed as well. Buy a new water pump and put it in there. Guys, at this point, I've spent so much time and money and literally owned the car at this point, I think over a year, and maybe put 1,000 to 1,200 miles on the car, period, because I'm scared to drive it. Like, there's so many problems with it. Every time the key at some points will also not work, which explains with the wiring. It just wasn't reading it. It said, please put the key, in this location, because I guess it might have been acting up with the wiring. At this point, I am completely over this car. It's been over a year of ownership. Maybe I put 1,000, 1,200 miles on it, and it's always been some sort of problem. Not to mention no AC for over a year. I just couldn't enjoy it. So I decided with my wife, I'm just going to post it up for sale. So I posted for like, I think $185,000 when I got it, because, well, I was thinking I bought it for $162. I've spent well over $40,000-$50,000 in just upgrading and repairs and the wrap and everything like that. So I have well over $200,000 into this car, and a lot of the cars that have the same twin turbo kit with upgraded transmissions were selling for right under $200,000. Yes, mine had a little bit more mileage, but it was technically taken care of once I finally got it and put the maintenance into it, put new coil packs, transmission flush, oil change. I've done it all. And then Sheepy gets hit with a bunch of drama, so I couldn't catch a break. I don't know if you guys seen it or not, but if you kept up with it, Sheepy was accused of all their cars just basically catching on fire. They had a giveaway car that the dude bought in like within 3 days. The thing literally burned down to a crisp. And even though they didn't touch my car, I started thinking, and the way they have their kit set up with those plates, it would rub through the harness, which could spark, and being next to the hot flames and everything else like that, it could at some point cause issues. Now, they were saying Sheepy cars were having a fuel line issue. Mine was a wiring issue. I don't know, but the fact that mine had a Sheepy kit on it, even though it's mostly just freaking intercoolers is the only difference, nobody would touch it. I literally couldn't give the car away. The best offer I got at that point was like $120, $130 or something like that. It was ridiculous, man. I was like, dude, I can't give the car away for so stupid cheap. So I kept it on the market for like 5 or 6 months. I sent it to Cars and Bids where it only brought in like 108,000. They let me set the reserve at like 135, but that's pretty much what the stock ones are going for. I finally decided I'm just gonna trade it in to a dealership, and that's what I did. I traded it for $125,000 and got myself a nice little M550 BMW for daily driving. So if you think about it, I bought the car for $162. I put about $40,000 to $50,000 into that car and traded in for $125,000. So I lost over $80,000 on this freaking twin turbo R8. If the car had no issues from the get-go and I could have enjoyed it for a year and a half, this thing would have been $1,400. But it's like one of those things where you get that bad taste in your mouth and you just can't look at the car the same way. Now this car right here is the complete opposite, because it started as the ugliest car in the world and now has become a complete monster. This Charger was involved in the Hurricane Ian that came through Florida about 2 years ago. It was a one-owner car with 50,000 miles and it was flooded, and I thought I could fix it. Bought it in, ended up having to completely gut the car because salt water is something I will never mess with again. It was rusting everything through, and we fixed it with twin turbo swapped it. It's amazing. There's complete opposite, because I wanted to do this. I didn't want to spend money on an R8 that should have been already in perfect condition according to John. You guys gonna figure out who it is, because I don't know, I want to blast him, but I don't. I mean, literally, like, he screwed me from the get-go. He could have told me it's something going on with the car, you know, and I probably wouldn't have bought it, let's be honest. Crazy thing is, that F-150 that he bought from me, that I told him he probably needs to tune before he goes and abuses that car, he posted, I think like a month later, it was like, oh, cool, doesn't have full power, but we'll figure it out. And then literally like a week later, the thing was up for sale for all asking for like $60,000 or whatever that he bought it from me for. So he sold that car also with issues, and it probably has some sort of an engine issue because he abused the crap out of it. So it's crazy that this guy has been getting away with it. I just got screwed, man. It should have made sense from the get-go when you say, hey, I'm not releasing my car till I have your car and your money. Then I'll give it away. It's a no-brainer now. I don't care if I'm buying a freaking BMW like that M550. I trailered my car all the way to Nashville, Tennessee, dropped it off, and made sure I looked at that BMW before I picked it up, because I did not want anything like this to happen again. Yeah, guys, the R8 is gone, and I'm sorry they didn't get to see it much on this channel, but you will see a lot more of this bad boy. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't buy anything, especially when somebody reaches out to you in North Carolina from Utah. Obviously you couldn't sell it there locally for a reason, so it just explains why I got screwed the way I did. But if you like this kind of video, drop a like, drop a comment. What are your impressions on people like that, man? Some shady businesses going out there, man, and I don't know how to get away with it. I just don't know. How do you sleep at night knowing you completely blatantly lied about the condition of a car, from backup camera not working, AC doesn't work, nothing works, and you got a bunch of transmission or electrical issues? But thank you guys, and I will see you in the next video.